It's time for Fridays with AI, where we ask AI to rewrite Philly sports history. Every Friday, only on This Day in Philly Sports History.
That's right. It's time for Fridays with AI. Every Friday, we ask AI to rewrite Philly sports history, and this one was an interesting one. We've been talking a lot this week about the 2007 to 2011 Phillies. Obviously, it was holidays. Perfect game the other day. We talked a little bit about Ryan Howard, and got me thinking. Ryan Howard, very interesting career trajectory. Was tearing up minor league pitching, but was stuck behind Jim Thome, who Jim Thome came to the Phillies to help open Citizens Bank Park. And then we know once Ryan got a chance, he excelled, took the job, and never looked back. Tore his Achilles in the 2011 playoff game against the Cardinals in Game 5, and really was never the same after that. But that season, he still put up solid numbers in 2011. Even though the offense struggled somewhat for the Phils, he had 33 homers, 116 RBIs, solid numbers for a 31-year-old. But again, that devastating injury, he just never seemed to recover. And then you couple that with the contract extension that kicked in that next year from Ruben Amaro, and Ryan kind of got a raw end of his time here in Philly. He was certainly on a Hall of Fame trajectory, outside chance before the injury. So we asked AI, what would have happened if Ryan Howard did not tear his Achilles? What if it was just a weak ground out, Phillies lose that series, and then come back with everybody healthy, ready to go in 2012? Well, look at this from two different perspectives, the Ryan Howard perspective and then the Phillies team perspective. From Ryan Howard, comes back and just goes back to being who he was prior to the injury, or if the injury didn't occur. Eventually, though, he starts to decline like most Major League players do as they progress in their 30s. But for the most part, he stays relatively healthy, averages between 25 and 35 homers the rest of his career, 90 to 110 RBIs, pretty comparable numbers. I mean, you take those 4-year, 5-year outlier numbers, his first couple of years, which were like he was averaging 49, but obviously Mother Nature and Father Time are undefeated. Eventually does start to decline, but without the injury, it is a real possibility that he sniffs 500 home runs, gets to about 1,500 RBIs, which would put him in the top 50 all-time in Major League Baseball, which essentially makes him a borderline Hall of Famer. And I don't think anybody would argue now that Ryan Howard's a Hall of Famer. Had the potential before the injury, had the potential if he'd have come up a couple years earlier. But in this scenario, without the Achilles injury, he does become a borderline, probably in the same boat as J-Roll, Chase, and even Bobby Abreu, the Hall of very, very good, just not quite getting to the Hall of Fame. But 500 home runs, I don't think there are any 500 home run hitters other than the steroid guys who are not in the Hall of Fame. So maybe he gets in, certainly not first ballot, but he sniffs the Hall of Fame, sniffs 500 home runs. Likely does get sign another contract after that extension from Ruben Amaro expires. Does retire after the 2016 season. AI was kind of torn between that. They're like, a lot of this is going to be dependent upon where the Phillies are as a team. They did say there was an outside possibility he gets traded to an American League team to be a designated hitter because the DH was not around in the National League until 2022. But what about the Phillies? How does Ryan Howard not getting injured impact the team's success? Well, they still got old fast, and that was the thing about it. Like, they went from having the best record in baseball, 102 wins in 2011, to completely just falling off the face of the earth and everybody getting hurt. They certainly still get older, but what it does, it allows them to keep that core group together. The Rollins, Utley, Howard, Cole Hamels, Chooch, those guys stay and don't get traded the way they did in our reality. And the Phillies continue to try to build around them, replenish the farm system. Ruben still gets fired because the expectations and the depletion of the bullpen. So they bring in guys to really are focused on rebuilding the farm system. Never really get back to that top level of where they were. Certainly a wild card contender each year. But every year that they're contending for the wild card and not trading some of those pieces for some prospects, it delays the inevitable, and the Phillies ultimately end up going through that rebuild period that they had. So Ryan Howard, if he doesn't get hurt, does sniff the Hall of Fame, sniff 500 home runs. Phillies never win another World Series, but do make a playoff run here or there, going in as a wild card, but ultimately delays the team's rebuild. Now, I went down a rabbit hole with this one because Ryan Howard, to me, is one of the most intriguing athletes in Philly sports history. And to me, the bigger what if would be, what if he came up a few years earlier? What if Jim Thome wasn't blocking his way at first base? And in this scenario, we'll do it on the front end instead of the back end. Comes up in 2003, becomes, they say, you know what, dude, just be you. You're our everyday first baseman. It obviously increases his that prime couple years he has. In this scenario, he gets to 540 home runs, over 1,700 RBIs. The team becomes competitive sooner. They still have that same core. They might win another championship during that run. AI was like, they're going to be one of those teams, and it all depends on how things break the right way. But Ryan Howard certainly becomes a Hall of Famer in this scenario that he comes up earlier. So today we asked AI, what about Ryan Howard? What if he didn't get hurt? Has a very solid rest of his career. Not that he had a bad kind of rest of his career after the Achilles, but you could tell he was just never the same player he was. And then AI said if he came up sooner, surefire Hall of Famer. But that was today's Fridays with AI.